Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Mind Your Biz. Today we have Bryan Redmond. Welcome to the show, Bryan.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, glad to have you. We've got a little bit of history over the years, and 10, 11 years or so. So we're going to have some fun today, and it's awesome for me to be able to spend some quality time with you because I know you've got a lot going on. Thank you for taking the time today to spend on the show. So without further ado, welcome to the show. I'm going to give a little bio on Bryan Redmond so everyone knows who we have with us today. Bryan is a co-founder and the chief executive officer for Suntex Marinas and is responsible for the vision and strategic initiatives for the company, including a heavy focus on expanding the company's portfolio of owned and operated marinas. He previously served as president for Suntex and has overseen approximately $3+ billion, that's impressive, in transactions for Suntex, Sun Resort International, and other entities in his 20 years of investment experience. Prior to Suntex formation, Bryan was a director of acquisitions for Sun Resorts International, a 400-employee firm that acquired and owned marinas in the United States, the Caribbean, and Mexico for significant cash flow returns and long-term investor value. You know how to say that. That's pretty good right there, bud. Sun Resorts sold most of its asset portfolio and management company to Island Global Yachting, where Bryan served as director of mergers and acquisitions and business development. Prior to his tenure at Sun Resorts, Bryan worked at Arthur Andersen. Forgot about that. The AA experience, that accounting.
Short experience, but yes.
It was a short? Yeah, all right. Bryan earned a BS, a Bachelor of Administration degree at Southwestern University, where he also played baseball. I forgot about that baseball game that you've got. That's why you like going to the Rangers game all the time.
True.
He's a licensed Texas real estate broker and graduate of the Stegan Integral Leadership Program. That's another good one. Bryan is active and member of the YPO, which I think is Young Professionals Organization. Young Presidents Organization. And a recipient of the 2023, this one hurts, and a recipient of the 2023 Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year Award for the Southwest region. Why does that hurt? You make fun of me because
you won it probably 20 years prior.
30 years before you. That is ridiculous. That makes me feel old, dude. And you've got the champagne here going. I got full on gray because of all this, but that's
I appreciate the champagne, not the white.
I went with champagne. We talked about that. So just a quick couple of questions about the E&Y program. Did you go out to Palm Desert?
We did. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Tell me about your experience, because I've got one that you're going to appreciate. So tell me about yours first.
Well, we went out there and I brought several of our team members and their spouses as well as mine, and we really made it just a fun event. Obviously would have loved to have won a national award, but regardless, seeing some of the other recipients from the Southwest region, spend some time getting to know them, just seeing, EY does a tremendous job of putting together a heck of an event. And being surrounded by so many talented people, it was a very neat experience. We had a lot of fun with it. Even snuck away to play a little golf, which we both like to do in our spare time. So tremendous golf out there, and our spouses had a great time. So definitely recommend it for anybody who has an opportunity to do it.
Good for you. That's a cool experience. Staying on that, did they seat you by your last name?
Good question. I don't remember being seated by our last name depending. You talking about the awards at the end? Or
the award dinner. The award dinner.
Yeah, I think so, because I was towards the back. R would be towards the back. So I'm guessing it was either that or it was by company name, which Suntex, either way, I would have been towards the back.
My seatmate to my left was Jerry Jones.
Nice.
He had won the master category and won the national master category. So
for which company? Was it the Cowboys or somebody else?
Cowboys. Yeah, this is 93. So he had just, he owned it maybe 3 years, 5 years.
That's when they were winning Super Bowls. It's been a while. You are dating yourself.
I am dating myself. So yes. So the seatmate was he, and I can't remember who his wife was at the time, maybe the same lady as it is today, but we had a really good conversation. I was 93, 31 years old. So I was a pup, so you're sitting next to this guy and you just got to be cool, not say anything. Don't ask for autographs, none of that kind of crazy stuff. So congratulations on that. That one's really, really good. Really good. I want you to talk a little bit about how you came into to the industry with Island Yacht, IGY, and then into Sun Community, or excuse me, Sun Resorts, into IGY, and into Suntex. Give the audience a history on one of the best operators in the country. They're going to want to know. They want to know how you got there.
I
So
appreciate that.
take a few minutes and talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, and I've talked about it in public several times, but it goes back to I grew up in Austin, Texas, on Lake Travis. My father's a dentist by trade, but very entrepreneurial and owned restaurants and other things. And my mom and him bought what they thought was going to be their retirement land on Lake Travis. And as a young teenager, we found out there was one of the last permits to build a marina, and we ended up building a marina and a water park when I was a teenager. So my first job was actually had the opportunity to work at the marina and the cash register back then. Technology wasn't where it is today, and helped pumping gas, and really just got to watch and learn what the marina boating lifestyle, in particular on a lake, kind of meant and what it was about and what people look for. So that was definitely ingrained in me early on to kind of see that front and center. Went to school, as you mentioned, did a very quick stint with Arthur Anderson here in the Dallas office, and then the Enron debacle occurred, and I was trying to figure out what I was going to do with my career, my life. And my father called and said there's a gentleman named Johnny Powers who had just bought a couple other marinas on Lake Travis. Mm-hmm. Got to meet Johnny here in Dallas, and immediately went to work for him, starting as an analyst in 2000. That was the summer of 2002, which was a great experience. Johnny was fantastic in letting me I got to hold his briefcase, all his meetings, the way I like to put it, and just soaked up kind of everything, in particular around how deals were being put together, how to raise capital. Back then, very different than where we are today, obviously, but got a good foundation, just of business in general. Learned a lot more in those early years than I ever did in school, and I share that with most. That is the best way to learn. But quickly found ourselves kind of fully ingrained in the marina business. It was called Sun Resorts International, Sun Resorts Management. I quickly became the lead acquisition guy, and spent a lot of my 20s down in the Caribbean and South Florida and other places, meeting, still the profile today, a lot of individual owner operators that really, most of which made their money in some other type of business, but, had a passion for the water and really liked the idea of owning a marina, and quickly just learned how to really understand what made them tick and what made them successful kind of at the marinas they owned or operated. And I share this with lots all the time. It's really, I was the grandson or son they never had in a lot of ways, and really thought of myself that way genuinely, and really wanted to try to understand what they had built, why they had built it, what made it, how it was their legacy and was important to them, first and foremost. And then two, in almost every case, it was very important that they wanted to do business with somebody that was going to take care of their people, their team. Right. And lastly, obviously, at the end of the day, for them to ultimately transact if and when they thought they were ready to do that, and hopefully we were going to be their first call back then, they needed a fair price, but they needed to be educated on price. I think I've heard you in some of your podcasts talk about that, Mitch, kind of what goes into, how do you get your marina ready to be sold? I think that was one of yours, which I thought was right on point of really kind of what in particular, as we get more and more institutional and the market does, kind of what are the things that the investors, large institutional investors, are looking for, and how do you prep for that? But even going back then to the early 2000s, we said a lot of education around, how to value the marina, what it's worth and why, and those kind of things. So had a really good foundation, starting to creep up. And then when we sold IGY, that was another great learning lesson for me in particular to watch. In my view, I believe they were the first to create a true marina platform versus just trying to invest in marina assets. So I got to really learn a lot in that it was only a 2-year period, but watch what I liked, what I didn't like, what I thought if we ever had the opportunity to do something similar, we could do a little differently. But tremendous learning lesson, through that period of time, and which was really 2007 and 2008. And then when we sat down and started writing the first business plan for Suntex, it was really taking all those neat things I learned from all those individual operators and what I thought really created a great overall marina experience, and trying to figure out how we could take, each piece of what we liked around the country, and some of the things in the Caribbean as well and other places, and implement those in more of a scaled way. Simply put, that really is kind of how we wrote the original business plan, was to take all those little things we learned from both IGY, but from really a lot of individual proprietors, and because some did it really, really well. And how could we replicate that was the vision.
Mm-hmm. So this was 2000. You just kind of put the timeline together for me, Bryan. 10 through 12 is when you really started to build the business plan with JP, Johnny Powers, and some of his investing community.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of lead me into what happened in 2015, 2016, as you and I started to carry on about the marine industry.
Yeah. So as to start in that 2010 to 12 range, our access to capital at that time was still more individual investors, large investors. So we had moved out of just your typical small, 100 to 500,000 type investors into ones that wanted to invest millions of dollars at a time. They still were, they were comfortable investing in the asset and liked the asset class and liked the supply demand dynamics and the cash flows and those things. They weren't bought into investing in a platform, and we really probably weren't ready for that. As we moved in, we got a little over 15 marinas, and I still think this applies to today. That's kind of a big inflection point in our space, where it's hard to continue to scale much past that if you don't have investors that are aligned with you in both, not just wanting to invest in the assets, but also invest in really people, process, procedure. At the end of the day, it's really that fundamentally simple. But you need willingness to invest in that both. And we recognize that. And it was also becoming hard if you really wanted to transact on the larger opportunities that came in front of you, trying to raise the money, put something under contract and then raise the capital, just is really difficult. So we really felt we needed access to much more, I'll call, aligned capital that really saw our vision of really investing in a platform, and the scale that we could achieve if we could find the right capital partners that wanted to do that. So in 2015, the current form of Suntex, who we are today, was that we just had our 10-year anniversary 2 weeks ago.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it was fun. Nice little celebration for the team. Big achievement, because I don't know that we ever envisioned we could be as big as we are today, 10 years ago when we were sitting here. But it was a fun celebration. But yeah, it was July of 2015 that the current form of us was created, where we went and raised capital from private equity partners. And that's when you saw our first real launch into scaling quickly. I think we went from 15 marinas or so to 30 pretty quickly thereafter. Obviously, how we met each other was during that process of you had a very similar size company. We're on your way to being that size with Anchor South. And when we decided to merge those, was that 2016-ish?
It was March, April of 16.
And so we had known each other from the industry for a while and decided to put that together. And again, the point being is that we would have never been able to do that in our previous iteration of Suntex. We definitely needed to have had access to that private equity in the platform in order for that to really make any sense to do at the time. At least that was my take. Ultimately, I think you came to that same conclusion.
100%. You and I met on a dock out in San Diego, walking along a set of docks that CNL was going to try to flip out of their portfolio or something.
That's right. I remember that.
We were walking the docks in San Diego someplace, or LA. I don't remember B, but that's how we met. So stay on that. So in 16 through, I'm going to get to where you are today in a second, but the listener in the audience is going to be very interested from 16 to 24, 25 timetable. How did you, to scale an operation requires so many resources and requires a good, solid leader to make good decisions. So Help the audience understand how you did that from 16 up to pretty much today.
Yeah, so I guess to set the table, from 16 to today, we've gone from approximately, and I may be off a little bit here, but that 30 marina range. We got to that 30 marina range. We did a very large recapitalization of business in March of 21, where Centerbridge Capital joined us as our lead partner. And then we've scaled up in that short period of time since 21 to we operate 95 marinas today. I think 77
Impressive.
of those are owned and operated. And then we do third party manage, which is a business we got in through our mergers with both West Trek and a company called Almar, who are the two kind of largest third party platforms at the time. We still love that business because it gives us opportunity to talk about privatization and or acquisition if that makes sense for them at the right time. But as we sit here today, we're at 95 with hopefully that'll be in the 110 to 120 range, in the very near future. So we continue to scale. So just that sets the stage of where we've kind of taken it. To step back, how did we do it? Your initial question, I think, it really comes back into having aligned partners that were willing to invest in the three key things: people, process, systems. So early on, we recognized one of the biggest challenges for our industry to scale was access to people that had been around other industries that had scaled. It was still, and we still are today, a very mom and pop industry. So the things the employee base understands and has been taught and are really good at is real focused on kind of how to be great at one asset, or maybe a couple asset in their area. It's a different skill set to understand how to have an individual that wants to be a part of what scaling means, meaning it's not just about how good you are at doing that one particular thing. It's about how you can become a leader and manage people to let them do what they're good at, what they're good at, which is just a different challenge. A lot of that, we hired a lot of key people in all through the organization in that time frame, kind of 16 to 21, and that's continued. And I think the biggest learning lesson for the audience from anybody wanting to scale any type of business is really making sure you try to hire for where you're going and not for where you are. It's probably one of the biggest learning lessons as a leader that I had to, learn and quickly follow. But you also need to get buy-in from your partners in that, because it's always more expensive, obviously, to get, you get what you pay for. But the absolute number one key to our success has been hiring talented people that didn't necessarily know much about marinas, but they were very familiar in other industries of how to scale a business and how to really implement process and procedure that allow that scale to occur. So I would say that's absolutely the number one thing that's helped lead us to our success is alignment with your investor base and investing in those key things. And then hiring people as a leader. The best thing I can do is hire people that are a lot smarter than me, and teach me something the day they've gotten here. It's the willingness as a leader to kind of do that it's amazing how big steps you can take quickly, with as a team, with those people that can teach us so much. So, and I could go down the list of every one of my executives and how they've done that within the organization. But
you made a really good point a second ago. I kind of put the analogy to playing hockey. You want to go where you think the puck's going to be, right? Not follow the puck. So that's a great story, Bryan. As an outsider watching the development of your platform, you've taken the approach where you have such a massive storage piece of your business, and you've also kind of married the hospitality. So give the audience a little bit of understanding what your strategy was there, where you've got boat clubs, you've got a big F&B up in some of your locations. So how does that all play into your value, how you've grown your business? I'm not going to talk about valuations, but certainly how you've been able to marry those different disciplines into the platform that you have now. That's a big one.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to fundamentally where it goes. I'll give credit to a gentleman named Bob Saran, who created a still probably my favorite marina that we're a part of today in
Marina Jax.
Marina Jack.
Yeah.
And it was, I guess it's the best example I can say of watching what a individual proprietor was able to create. And in a perfect world, we would recreate that over and over. Now, some settings just won't allow for that. It's unique that the downtown waterfront of all Sarasota is kind of there combined. But at the end of the day, I simply put it like this: we want to. The vision was to provide people access to the water, regardless of what that access meant for that individual. So obviously a key part of our business is starting with the customer journey of the individual that wants to dive right in, own their own boat, and providing them the best experience of a place where they can keep their boat and gives them all the things, the amenities that they're looking for, to have a wonderful experience. And that goes into little things. It's clean. It's people know your name.
Mhm.
It's access to great bathrooms and showers or lockers, depending on the market. It's having a great food and beverage option, which can be a very different answer in each market. Not the same.
Yeah.
It's And then you take it further. It's how do we, some people didn't grow up boating. Some people are intimidated by it. It can be a scary thing. How can we make accessing the water better for everybody? And that, in our view, that's 10 years ago, we started the concept of the circle of boating. Concept of renting a boat, or the concept of boat club, and the concept of marinas have been around forever. I think the concept was more, how do we look at the, almost your top of your sales funnel of how do we get the younger generation, a more diverse customer base, to be willing to come try boating? And we found as a marina operator, we're not the boat manufacturer. We're not, we don't sell boats, but we take care of those customers through the journey once they've kind of made that decision. But the best way we could get more people in to trying the boating lifestyle was through that boat rental, the cheapest form of kind of going, trying it, and trying to graduate them through the club. And then ultimately, if they really love the lifestyle, they're gonna want to buy their own boat and kind of be there long term with this. So that, again, not to say there's not other ways. We, paddleboard rentals. You can think of lots of ways you can enjoy the water, but that was our number way we felt we could contribute to the industry and trying to really try to get more people into the boating lifestyle. For those of us that do experience it and understand it, we feel like everybody else is missing out, and we should give them an opportunity. So I'm glad you bring that up. I think it's one of our big differentiators. And then as everything evolves, right? One thing that's evolved for us is understanding that we don't necessarily have to operate all those businesses in order to still drive that great experience. In fact, we found that in many cases, in certain markets, there's best in class operators of each one of those business lines. And
Yep.
we'd rather partner with them and let them do what they're really great at. So again, I think if you go to all of our marinas, it doesn't necessarily mean we operate the circle of boating, but we're always going to make sure that the circle of boating offering and the access to the water is a part of every market that we're in, whether we're operating that or not. So that's something, everything evolves over time. But that's important part to us is, we believe that we will have the stickiest customer that will always talk, say if you had an option where you're going to keep your boat, we want to be that first option. I think that all comes down to that, that net promoter score. If you measure NPS, we all should be.
Right.
It all goes into the experiential side, and that emotional attachment is an important part of what we do.
Bryan, that's that I'm just a large advocate of what you've been doing. That's narrative, that's story, that's boating. That's how it should be played. And there are opportunities that you found along the way to somebody to be a third party tenant in this or in this or in this, where you may not have the perfect expertise, but you've got a perfect partnership. So kudos. That is a great way to build a platform. I'm really interested too. Like, what current events? Like, take a second. What current events are we seeing in our space over the last year and maybe the year forward here that's really impacting our industry? You and I came through this where banks wouldn't lend us money. I think they called us Oreo. I think that was the term that other real estate owned. We weren't apartments or retail or commercial or industrial. We were this other real estate owned, and banks and the investment community really didn't get it until a lot of things have happened. I think the private letter ruling, I'll let you talk a little bit about that and where you see the market for the marine generally and specifically the marina industry over the next couple, 3, 4 years. The listener in the audience is really going to be interested in this.
Yeah, Mitch, I think I break it down because you alluded to several of these within that question. I break it down into there's three main things that are really shaping the industry, and it's been evolving over the last 10 years, in particular with what Safe Harbor's been able to achieve and the tremendous job they've done also. And I think we have followed right, side by side with them in this. And we've both done it in our own way, but I think we've led the way and others are following and it's making everybody better. But it really breaks down to three things. It's access to capital, which is allowed for some consolidation, even though there's still, people don't realize there's still a ton of consolidation opportunity within the United States in particular. So it's access to capital and consolidation. Two is it's really a focus for the first time because of that consolidation and the investment capital coming in for there to be a real conversation about the customer journey. And I take it all the way back. The customer journey starts with the manufacturer and what they're designing to make the experience great, all the way through to the lead dealers, the Marine Maxes, the One Waters, and many others out there. And then it kind of goes in the marina, and then it comes about the service and experience that is a combination of the marina and kind of taking care of the boat. But that customer journey experience, because everything was mom and pop in the marina space, and I'll come back to this second because I just want to touch the third. The third is technology. So because, again, it all starts with access to capital, which has led to consolidation, which has led to a new focus on the full customer journey. And lastly, because of that, there's all the investment above. Now you're starting to see real investment in technology come forward.
Right.
It is really going to unlock our industry as a whole to really take the next step. And there's some really neat things coming because of that. So I'll kind of break those down. I'll try to go back one by one. Access to capital, again, us and Safe Harbor really kind of started really scaling about the same time. One with and you probably will have some of these guys come talk to you too. Started with an MLP that then transitioned to being owned by a large public REIT. And now obviously
tell the audience what an MLP is.
A master limited partnership. So, and a group called AIM, which originally was partners with Safe Harbor. Obviously they transitioned to Sun, and then obviously in the headlines, the big transaction with Blackstone Infrastructure and Safe Harbor. Just another great example of how you're seeing continued investment in just more and more scale. Mm-hmm. And as more institutional capital has gotten educated and understands the business and the great dynamics of our business, you're just going to see more and more of that. Ultimately, you'll probably see a company, be a public company themselves, that still hasn't yet occurred yet. If you look at that, it started with, you mentioned the private letter ruling. We had a vision in 2015 when we created the current version of Suntex that we thought there was opportunity to go get a private letter ruling. For those who don't know, that's something. If there's a gray area within the tax code, you can go and ask the IRS to opine, what their belief is about this gray area. Ours simply put was, are marinas real property or are they personal property? Because in order to be good income for the rent you collect on them to be good income, they need to be real property. So it took us 2.5 years, but getting that was
that was for on-water slips. But primarily, did dry storage come into that at all, or
no? It's for every type of marina storage that we operate. Was included, and so that was a big deal because that really did open access to capital that just really wasn't there prior to that. And I think we've all in the industry benefited from that. So that was a big step for our industry, was for you to be able to structure as a real estate investment trust. Through that PLR was a big deal. And it's been not just a positive for us in Suntex, it's been a big positive for the entire industry. Yeah. Including yourself and others. So that was a big step. But again, not just that, but all of us, you included in this, Safe Harbor very much included in this, because I think in a lot of ways they've led the way. Just the education to the larger institutional banks, the private equity groups, really even the investors that invest in the private equity funds,
Right.
uh, really understanding our business better and understanding, the supply demand dynamics. Once they truly understand that even though the use of the boat may not always be there and constant, the revenues related to the use of boat maybe not as constant, but the storage of the boat has been one of the most constant, stable income streams, I've personally ever seen, definitely in my career. But as you look at the data over time, the constraint on supply in our space is just tremendous and is really made it a very attractive investment once everybody understands that. So because of that, that has led to more access to capital, which has led to more consolidation. You have a lot of companies out there buying portfolios of marinas. You have us and Safe Harbor, who really have, I think, the two top scaled platforms.
Definitely. Yes.
Um, and then, which is gonna, just that's only benefiting everybody. And in fact, I'll point to it, kind of transition into my second point of the customer journey. I recently had the opportunity to speak at the American Boating Conference on stage with the CEO of MarineMax, who now owns IGY as well. And Brett and I had a great conversation around, it was really hard for the manufacturers or even the boat, the Marine Maxes of the world, the retailers that are really the touch point to these customers in the beginning. It was really hard for them to partner with marinas prior because, man, it was one by one. There wasn't, you couldn't just go talk to one and say, okay, by talking to this one, that gives me exposure to hundreds of marinas, which means thousands and thousands of customers at a time. And I think those two, I think the manufacturers and the retailers are starting to see that more. And I think us and Safe Harbor and IGY and others, yourself, I think it's upon us now to really go figure out how to partner together. And I know there's a big effort with the NMMA organization. Frank, the leader of that, is tremendous about this, is really making a group effort to go get more people into boating.
Hmm.
But I think it's got to be, all of us need to be focused on that and how we really make that customer journey all the way through a spectacular experience, so that even in COVID, you see examples of this. So a lot of new people to industry, new to market, bought a lot of boats. And unfortunately, we've not been able to keep them. There's a lot of them that have decided to leave with a flood of a lot of used boats on the market. New boat sales are down in a lot of ways the last couple of years. And I think if we can do a better job of teaming together all the way through that journey, I think we have an opportunity to not only get hopefully we don't have a COVID situation that causes it, but for our
Right.
own reasons, we can go be proactive in creating new boaters, and then capturing them and keeping it in their lifestyle, forever. But we're going to have to all work together to do that. And I think that's kind of my second piece. And then the third piece, I think where you're going to see the most change, really starting now, but over the next 5 to 10 years for sure, is the opportunity to use technology to make the customer experience better and more in tune with what people are really used to in other industries, in the hotel industry, the airline industry, really in many others. Um, you know, Having technology and having the phone that we all have today, and now with AI coming,
Yeah, that's a good one.
really using those things to just make boating not as intimidating, making it more ease of access, more just a better overall experience. I think is huge opportunity for us, not just to keep the customer we have, but also to make sure the new customer that we have the opportunity to capture is, wants to stay longer. Is the way I would say it. So there's a lot to unpack there, but again, I can tell you that because we were approached all the time, all of us the platforms out there are spending a ton on technology to try to roll that out soon to the customer base. I know there's a lot of third parties that are for the first time paying attention to our industry, and bringing their technology, whether it's AI or different things, to bear that they're gonna benefit the customer. It really hasn't. I mean, there's concepts out there, but it really hasn't gotten to the customer fully yet. So I'm super excited to be a part of it, and hopefully be a part of being on the forefront of helping roll a lot of those things out in the near future.
Bryan, you remember, I know you do, so I'm just going to say it out loud. Back 2010 through 2020, I'll just pick that window. we had a credit card processing, we had a marina map software. We had, if you owned any kind of food and beverage, that credit card processing was going to be different than the one that you were using to charge for tenancy and storage. Then, if you had lodging, you had this lodging app of some sort. If you had a boat rental app, you had a whole different software program for that. The reason that you're Champagne and I'm gray headed is not customers. It's the fact that you and I were dealing with this disparate sets of platforms that you're trying to pull data from each one to put in. So I think it's imperative we spend just a minute with where you kind of, I know this is going to be a tough one because you're kind of picking it out of the air. Where do you kind of see this playing out? Because you and I've been dealing with 7 or 8 different platforms that are all pulling, and then you got to bring them into a master accounting program. So a little bit there. I mean, the audience is not going to be bored with this subject by any means, right? They know storage, they know boats, they know hospitality, they know manufacturing. This one, they're going to go, how are you boys figuring this out?
It's a great question, and you have been in it just as long as we have. We've been spending the last 10 years, literally it is 10 years. It's not shorter than that, trying to figure out how to get those down to as minimal as few, and how to all be fully integrated so it is real time. So I would say I think we're there, and I don't know exactly where Safe Harbor is on this point, but my guess is there too. We're there from a back office perspective where everything is tied together. You may have still multiple different applications because they're specialized, but we're there from a perspective where those all feed into one place and it's fully integrated. So, but by the way, we just got there, I'm talking months ago, not years ago. But it's exciting because the back office side of things, we've become much more efficient. That's the benefit of having aligned investors, back to one of our original topics of being willing to invest in the technology that allowed the process to become more efficient, and allow you to be ready to continue to scale further. Because without that, it's hard. It's really hard to scale without all those things being efficient. What we have not done yet is, because we needed to get the backbone, that stuff figured out first, so that we can now start rolling out the things that are going to be truly customer facing. And we're really on the precipice of doing that. So, a little bit of that will be released kind of into this year, into 2026 for us. But I think you're going to see the real fun stuff's going to start coming out, at least for us. Others may be ahead of us. But for us, I think you start seeing that in 27, 28. You're going to see some really neat stuff where, think I can sign a contract in one marina, but I truly have an app and a system that allows me to move around wherever I want. Which that's the future. And there's exciting things that, we look forward to rolling out around that. Because I think there's a lot of individuals in certain markets, in particular in South Florida, but really all around Florida, up and down the eastern seaboard, anywhere you have an intercoastal waterway where, the ability to truly say, oh, wait, I just have to sign one contract and I can kind of move and go to all the places I really want to go. That's been a concept, and others have talked about the network effect, but it's been hard to make that a great experience. Like today, you can do that today, but it's just a lot of work. And it really, as a captain or as a boat owner, it's not that great of an experience today. But I think it is coming that can be a real thing, which I think is super exciting.
One of the things you and I've been watching is the app for dry storage. Being able to go in and into an app and say, pull my boat down, put some gas in it on an app, and here's the time I'm going to be there. 5 years ago we didn't have that. Today, that's kind of ubiquitous technology that we can use as a tenant, which makes you and I grew up with, you get a phone call, put my boat in the water, put some ice in it, beer, ice, water.
And to get an update where it stands, you had to call back. Yeah,
exactly right. And now we have the ability in an app, which is it sounds prehistoric, but in our industry, it's kind of pushing that envelope, right?
Absolutely. And it's exciting to see more and more of that come to the forefront, which will be, I know I'm excited to actually be a part of seeing that actually in, being used, because I know how much time our team and all of us have been working on it behind the scenes for a very long time. So that'll be an exciting day for me.
Um, One of the things that and I'll come back to a couple of things, but one of the things that I've said to the audience over the last 3 months is I'm finding those individuals that have been successful that have also balanced their family. It's freaking hard. I'm telling you, yeah, it's just, yeah, as you are in the throes of it, it's freaking hard. So tell me a little bit about your family. You can go as deep and as you want, but the audience is going to want to hear a successful person, male or female, that has been able to grow their career and at the same time balance their family. So give the audience, because they want to know. They want to know how you're doing it. But people struggle with this one, B. They do. They struggle with this one real hard. And you've been very successful in figuring out how to do that. So really kind of lay the preaching down on that, if you would.
Well, if I'm in a position to preach, but I love sharing my experience and kind of, cause we all have to go through it and kind of figure it out. But first and foremost, well, to start, I have 4 kids that are age range of 16 down to 4. So pretty spread out. And it is a lot, but it's like anything else, you can't do anything by yourself, because you will fail trying to do that. And all my success goes because I'm fortunate to have a wife that really takes care of of everything in the household. Really,
Yeah, you outkicked your punt coverage there, buddy. There's no doubt about that.
for sure. And she, and I think as time's evolved, we've grown together too. And I'd say the one is you have to look at it as a partnership. As we've evolved in our marriage and those things, the amount of respect and support she gives me for, what I'm trying to achieve that, can help our family and our goals, and then it has to go the other way too. And the amount I try to, and really what I've learned over the years is, because I'm not very good at it, but I try to get better, is, telling them how much your spouse, how much you appreciate them and what they do, and how much it's just as important as what I do. And then you both have to agree that you're fulfilling your purpose. Because if you're not, ultimately it's going to be hard to kind of make that work. But it's a great question. I think any successful male or female that is also trying to raise a family, I think would admit that you better have a good partner on the other side, because it's really, really hard.
I was joking with Bryan before we started today about he has 2 drop dead gorgeous girls in his house. And I believe 16, 14, 16, 13.
About to be 16, 14, but yeah, 16, 13 at the moment.
Yeah. I don't want to show up like if I'm a 17 or an 18, 16-year-old boy and I'm coming to pick up one of your daughters, I'm not doing that. I'm going to have you deliver them someplace because there's I know how protective you and Brandy are of your kids and your family. So I don't want to be sending my son to date your daughter. That's probably not a wise thing to do, because I think I know you well enough that.
Yeah, you're thinking like Bad Boys, Will Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. I try not to be that way with the boys. I encourage them to want to come hang out at our house. I feel like I've better insight to what's really going on, is more my view on that. But my wife, she's a pretty good investigator, so she generally kind of knows what's going on. But I'll be careful. My daughters might, knowing them, they'll figure out how to watch this. So I can't give away too many secrets. We're overseeing. No, in all seriousness, so at the end of the day, I've found with teenage daughters, they want to be trusted, they want to be respected, and we try to give them that opportunity to earn that trust, and they're smart girls. We're confident.
We got Bear coming up too, right? We got a big Bear coming up through the family too, right?
We got, yeah, Bruin's 7 now, and then the baby Breland is 4. So we got the whole spectrum of things going on. They still think I hung the moon, so they're a lot of fun to hang out with. Hang out with the teenagers. I gotta find ways to kind of force them to still do that with me these days. But it's a lot of fun. No, in all seriousness, it's all about and you invest that time early with them, and trust that they they're gonna make some bad decisions, and you try to be there for them and use those as learning moments, and hopefully get through it. But it's a lot. I know my wife is under constant stress, kind of worrying about where they are, and I try
Yep.
not to think about it that way and just be there for them, communicate as much as I can. But yeah, it's anybody who's raised teenage daughters probably knows what I'm talking about. It's a lot coming at you.
Our parents didn't have the challenges you and I have, where social media, you got a phone in your hand all the time, right? I don't know. I'm a grandpa, as you know my family as well as anybody. I don't know how my three kids balance the fact that their kids have got a phone and social media and the internet and all that sort of thing that I didn't have to deal with in the late 80s, 90s, early
Yeah.
2000s with
You,
my
you,
kid.
well, if they had that in the 80s and 90s, you'd be in prison.
There's
I'm,
truth in that.
I say that about myself too. I'm
Yeah, there's truth in that, right?
I'm kidding, but it would have been. I really do. We've had a couple learning lesson moments about these kids. It's hard for them to have to go through the years they're going through and know that they can make one simple mistake, but it's there forever. That's you and I didn't have to deal with
Right.
it, so it is a serious. It's hard. It's a hard thing. I think the only thing I've learned to do is you just have to be open and talk about it a lot, and
That's right.
you can't act like it's not the case. So,
Good for you.
but it's quite the challenge.
Yes, it
I'll
is.
definitely have I don't know if there's such a thing, but a psychology degree or and how to raise different age of kids at the same time.
Your bet, I'm very happy that Bruin comes behind the two girls, because you and Bruin are going to have this, this bond that is in. Now, don't be mistaken. Girls love their dad a lot, especially as they age along. That Bruin is going to be that guy that's you're going to get to do things. You're going to play golf. You're going to go to football games and baseball games and play whatever it is that he chooses to do. That's going to be that one that puts a smile on your face.
It's a lot of fun. We have a great time.
Good for you. All right. Look, is there anything I should have asked you today that I haven't? I've got a couple of things, but we're on the 47-minute time, and I want to be respectful of your time. The audience is going to find this to be awesome. They want to hear that, Bryan. They want to hear
I
from
look
the
forward to
best.
it. I truly appreciate the time and the questions. It's a lot of fun. I don't know that I've ever done any interview like this actually. So
Good.
it's been a lot of fun. I'll encourage others to step up and hop on, and you let me know when we have the next big thing happen in the industry. We'll have to hop back on and talk through it.
We'll have a lot of fun with this. Bryan Redmond, thank you for joining Mind Your Biz today. It's my honor. I'm very happy that you did this. I told you you'd be first, said it from the very beginning. And there's a lot for the audience, kind of a close. Bryan and I have a unique relationship. We've got a 10, 11-year relationship where he understands me and I understand where he's coming from. And he is one of the top 2 operators in the country, period, end of story. He knows what he's doing. He's got a great team. It's not just Bryan. He's got a great team. And I want to thank you for coming on here today and appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Mitch. Appreciate the audience. Look forward to next time and listening more. Thank you, Mitch.